What is
like
vermouth?
vinegar.
I think I thought of vermouth as some sort of, like, not as wine. I thought of
Yeah, so it's in the wine family for sure. It's a fortified aromatized wine. So like this particular one, we'll just knock it out, is Willamette Valley Pinot Noir Rosé, where I took some of the base wine and distilled that down to fortify back in, and then aromatize that with herbs and botanicals, in this case, fresh wormwood, fennel, and then dried elderflower, gentian root, chamomile, orange peel. Yeah.
I love it. I got really into this.
Sweetened with a little bit of local honey.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's and cinnamon. It's really nice holiday drink for me.
Yeah, so why such a small bottle? That was my complaint.
Well, because
I wanted more.
I make bigger bottles, but I'll give you a bigger bottle.
You want to go through it.
Exactly. Yeah. If you're at home consuming this, it's not like you can pour yourself this massive glass. You can, but it's not that common. Right. So I just didn't want old vermouth sitting up people's shelves and continue that bad name.
It's a good complaint if the only complaint is they want more of it.
That's true.
Right. And then you got the
Buonanotte 100% Sangiovese. So this is the first wine I made on my own. It's from 2016, and this is from a vineyard just east of the Dalles, Oregon, so kind of on the eastern edge of the Columbia Gorge. And one of the cool things about making wine in the Columbia Gorge is it goes from rainforest and Cascade Locks to high desert and the Dalles, and that's 40 miles. So you have all these microclimates you can work with and kind of get these different varietals that really find their home within that. The Sangiovese, kind of in the high desert, rolling wheat field, mustard seed fields, was planted specifically for the clone of Sangiovese, and I believe that it works really well. It's a cool kind of wild vineyard with sagebrush growing in it. There's like, during harvest, there's clusters of Sangiovese like falling into the flowering sagebrush.
It's like poetry. I thought I was doing an interview about wine.
I studied poetry, you know this, but I'm not that poetic these days.
So you're saying something radical, which is that where the grapes happen, nature actually influences wine. I think historically, maybe that's not radical in your world, but historically,
radical, but that's okay.
We look down on organic wine. I mean, organic wine got a bad name.
It did.
And for some good reasons, because you had to go through some hoops and it wasn't always.
It was also, I'm going to generalize here, but because there was some great organic wine out there, it's just super rare. But a way to like cover up not being a great winemaker and sell wine. It's like, well, it's organic. You're going to love it. And
but you
weren't
say
putting
the
the same
opposite.
effort into making a quality product.
Yeah.
They're just selling the organic beyond actually making a quality wine.
Now,
it's
from an environmental point of view, you're influencing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of acres and tons of people working. And if you got pesticides all over the place, that's not great.
No.
And who wants to drink pesticides, right?
No. Well,
but apparently a lot of people do.
But if you ask someone, you want to drink pesticides, they're like, no. But that's the thing. And this is not like some salacious thing, but there's just no labeling on wine to actually tell you what's in it. I think that's our main point of talking this evening. It's like, so there's plenty of things they put into wine that are additives that you would never think about, and they don't have to put on the label. Like it says contains sulfites, and that is a naturally occurring thing in grapes. So yes, and then that is a thing where people have added quite a lot of sulfites in certain situations. That's going to give you a headache, and it's just not that good. Although there's
So what do you do with sulfites?
Sulfites and mustard.
Do you add any?
I do add a little bit of sulfites. It's just like this little homeopathic ad right in bottle. Like it's 5 parts per million for this guy, 20 parts per million for the vermouth. Just
how much are the more tacky sulfite people adding?
There's not like this magic number, but I think the natural wine world adds roughly what I'm adding here, and then if you get to up, it's like starts kind of at 50 and can go off. I'm not gonna
a lot higher.
Yeah, it can go a lot higher.
So and sulfites just are a preservative, right? To kind of keep that great fresh taste.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but if you have too much, you get a headache. Does it change the taste as well?
It can change. So they kind of blow off. It does change the taste to a certain extent. Wines can be shut down if they just added sulfites recently. There's like, white Burgundy is a classic example of you smell it and you taste just like almost a little bit of matchstick, and it's almost like a welcome flaw within it. So that's
maybe.
It's like part of the terroir. It's like, well, that's Riesling. That's actually it's not. They don't actually put gas in.
Right.
So there is some sulfites in these wines, very small amount, but
on a level that's
not
minimal.
Minimal. It's 5 parts per million. It's quite lovely to add that. It's almost like just cleans it up at the very end, and the bottling project is magical, and it just kind of like takes it into being a finished product and lets it be stable on the shelf a little bit longer. And once it's open,
Right.
so you don't have to just be like, look, look, look.
You say have to, but it's pretty. I mean, I've been drinking a lot of this myself.
Yeah, he's
quite
one of
enjoyable.
my best customers. Right
Yeah, and I'm not a wine drinker normally. I mean, it helps that I know you and I believe in the product.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what we're talking about. Like, what will it take for you to believe in this or believe in anyone versus not supporting it or not being loyal? So I really want to encourage people. We got a winemaker here, an entrepreneur, and we're talking about natural wines. So if you got any comments or questions, I am not the expert here. So what else should we talk about?
Well, so it's not
Yeah.
just sulfur. So there's other things that go into wine. I'm pointing at mine like, man,
Yeah.
promise I didn't add any.
Yeah.
And I just would put a caveat. It's like there's some incredible wines in the world that aren't made with some of these additions, like
Right.
And sometimes like you're an entrepreneur and you have a cold vintage and you need a little more alcohol and sweetness in your wines, and you can almost understand why someone would want to add a little sugar, and it's all going to ferment out, but it's a processed product, and so that's a big one. Cold vintages when
What's the big one? Adding more sugar?
adding sugar.
And is anything wrong with that?
It's you should know what's in your wine. You should know what
Yeah.
you're drinking, and
Okay.
you should know that maybe in certain wines, at certain times, I'm like, I mean, it doesn't have to be the cold vintage, but it's a classic example. It's like you go into your supermarket in a wine growing region in a cold vintage, and the whole sugar shelves are empty. You're like, we're having all that sugar.
Right.
And then the vice versa of that is on a warm vintage when you have these high sugars, people will add acid to balance back in. And it's citric acid or tartaric acid, which tartaric is a natural occurring thing in the wine at quite a high level. So you're just boosting that up. But it's also the processed stuff is the same stuff you find on Sour Patch Kids.
Right.
And so
And you're kind of
it's like-
monkeying around with the wine itself. Like you can only do so much of that before you're losing the terroir. or the-
Exactly, and it's not the truest expression at that point because you've taken what the year provided for you,
Yeah.
and messing with it, which is fine. It's kind of like within a certain way, like that's what a winemaker does. It takes the grapes that you get in a vintage,
Yeah.
and you try and make the best wine you possibly can out of it.
Yeah.
But there's got to be some truth in it all, I think.
Yeah.
And just if this was like a food product, they'd have to tell you exactly what was like percentage of sugar, all these other things.
Well, I would think just from the point of view of writing or craft or mindfulness that you're trying to like get the best nature, like where is it coming from? Where are the grapes? What's the climate like? What's the earth like? And you're trying to bring that out and combine that in the most interesting way, not then kind of drug it up and like steroids at the end process. That's not winemaking. That's just that's monkeying around with it.
It is. Totally is.
But I don't know what I'm talking about. But that's what it would sound like.
You're a
altering
wine
the
consumer,
time.
and that's kind of like just the thing. It's like knowing what's in your wine, knowing what you're drinking, knowing that you might actually really appreciate a beautiful bottle of wine that has some of that in there from time to time. But if you really want to get the truest expression, find some wines that may not have it.
And that's like from an elephant point of view, this is what we love. Kind of what you're saying.
That's why it's like
you taste it, you're so mindful in that moment, whether it's coffee or food or good wine. And if it connects with the nature without too much adulteration, you're really connecting with, what's it called? Hayu. What they're doing with that land is so beautiful. The farm he used to work on, the winery.
Yeah.
Versus like spraying it all down with poison and it's killing all the insects and it's killing it's bad for the workers.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, the Hood River Valley is a big hair growing region.
Right.
And my friends have kids. I don't have kids, but
Yeah.
they'll be driving their kids to school, and they certain times of year, there's just the guys out there spraying, and they're wearing hazmat suits and like these big helmets, and they're just driving through like clouds of this stuff, and like the windshield wipers on. It's like just want to bring my kid to school.
That's rough.
Yeah.
Yeah, something's wrong with farming when people have to wear hazmat suits.
Yeah, and
Farming
helmets
should
with
be like
respirators.
fresh air and like getting sun on your arms.
Yeah. Maybe a few diesel tractor fumes. At the
Yeah, a
worst.
little bit electric now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
So any comments or questions from Instagram, Facebook? I want to get the readers involved. So if you're viewing or reading, I'm used to calling elephant readers, let us know if you got comments or questions. Do we have anything?
No, it's not. Do you have any symptoms?
I don't have.
Wait. Do you have any Zinfandels?
I don't have any Zinfandels, but Zinfandel's an awesome grape.
Yeah. Well, you just started. This
I
is
just
your
started,
first
so-
offering.
Yeah.
And actually, if I may, this is not a sponsor, a commercial, or anything. You have given a special deal for elephant readers, so we're putting that link in
True.
the comments. That info in the comments.
There's an area like coupon code elephant, 10% off.
Yeah.
All the bottles. If you buy a case, you get a better than 10% discount. So
Yeah.
I didn't put it on there.
And this is just to support like a natural winemaker, a good man who's worked for Elephant for a few times. We're buddies.
First
And-
ever intern. I used to deliver magazines in the back of his Saab, and it would be like just like low riding with
Yeah.
so much weight in the
Yeah.
back.
Totally. We pretty much broke that car. Yeah. So Zinfandel. So what are your other plans?
So this year, I pretty much doubled in size as far as production go. I didn't make any Zinfandels. I can recommend one from Smock Shop Band in the same area. It's super light,
Yeah.
super aromatic, and herbaceous.
Let's put that link in. Who do you recommend?
Smock Shop Band.
Smock Shop Band.
Yeah, I helped
Okay.
make wines there for 3 years. It's high
Cool.
years.
Oh, cool.
Exploratory label.
Well, Hiyu, we should put Hiyu in the link.
Yeah.
Hiyu.
Yeah.
They're amazing.
But so this year I made Dolcetto, Syrah, which is borderline Italian varietal, was one of my favorites, so I wanted to do it anyway. This Pinot Grigio, Sangiovese as well, and some Sauvignon Blanc.
Oh, so you're doing a bunch.
Oh, and Pinot Noir. I made some Pinot Noir. Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah.
That seems, how do you do that many varietals when you're just starting out? I would think you just start really small.
It's one of those things where I was like, when I have my own winery, I'm gonna do like one good white, one good red, and then you start seeing like these vineyards that you want to work with, and they're like, hey, you want to have some of this fruit? And I'm like, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Have some of that
Yeah.
fruit. It's just it's retail there.
Yeah.
Like, ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll some wine.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, and did we put that link, discount link is in there? If you're so inspired, I bought a bunch. I'm not a big wine drinker and I'm becoming a big wine drinker, but I'm totally biased openly toward this. Tell me just briefly, just because I'm curious about the label and that whole process, because there's a lot in the bottles and the shipping. Like,
Sure.
There's a lot to being a winemaker that it doesn't involve wine. Like I'm a entrepreneur and there's a lot that I do that doesn't involve articles or editing, right?
Yeah. So
How do you do all this stuff?
this is one of my like the labels designed by my girlfriend Emily. I think I already like.
Really? Oh, I actually didn't know that.
Yeah.
These are
She
gorgeous.
studied
This
design
is
in
one of my
college.
favorite things about the wine. So, even if I weren't drinking it, I would just put it out on my coffee table and try to impress people.
That's a great
It's
idea.
gorgeous. It's so simple. which I
Yeah.
love.
But basically, look, I don't know if any of you guys started business before, but the hardest thing in the beginning is like trying to find a name. And you find one you like and it's taken and you just keep going. And
What
we
was
had
your
one
first name?
the first name was Santo Spirito, which
Uh-huh.
is still Santo Spirito LLC.
Yeah.
And there's an awesome winery in Italy that I really respect, and they called one of the wines Santo Spirito.
Mhm.
And at that time, it just didn't seem 100% right. And so it came up with Buonanotte, which I think is actually what it's meant to be the whole time.
Mm.
And it's not really taken as a restaurant.
No, I'm not an Italian speaker, but does that mean good night?
It does, yeah.
Just taking a risk.
What are you talking about? It's perfect Italian. And then within that, I was just messing around trying to come up with ideas that we could make out of the label. I tried to do some artwork and this other stuff. And it boiled down to this just like simplistic design. And Emily is really into fonts. It's one of her favorite things.
Mm.
And so she picked out the font and made it look and really good with colors that all matched. And then, so you got to deal with the TTB, which is like the governing body of alcohol. It used to be alcohol, tobacco, and firearms.
Mhm.
And now it's called TTB. It's like new branding, but they're actually super easy to deal
So does
with.
that
but-
make it easier if you're doing a wine company to get into tobacco and firearms as well? Do you have plans in that direction?
Well, that's our next elephant. I will let you know.
Exactly. Yeah.
Eco guns.
Did you have another comment?
Yes, from Chase Rowland from Littleton, Colorado. He asks
Chase.
Chase Rowland, yeah.
Yeah.
How does organic farming techniques affect the health and flavor of the wine?
So let me repeat. So how do
How does
organic farming techniques what?
affect the health and flavor of the wine?
Affect the health and flavor of the wine?
So the best way to describe this, and I know
Great question.
it's a great question, and it is one to think about. Like, well, you're not actually going to taste these pesticides, and it doesn't make like these
Really?
nice-
You don't taste pesticides?
No,
I feel
you
like
don't.
they're in there, right?
You don't taste them. I mean, they're in there, but it's not like affecting the taste.
Right.
But so it's like the best way to describe this is through biodynamics.
Mhm.
And
Tell us what that is.
so biodynamics is a way of thinking about farming. It was created by Rudolf Steiner, the same gentleman who invented the Waldorf School, which I was a
Yeah.
8-year attendee. Actually, it's called.
You should have named it Rudolf Steiner Wines.
Ooh,
Yeah. Rudolf
that's
Steiner Halls.
yeah.
All right. Anyway.
And so, it makes it a little harder to grow incredible grapes. But within that, if you're, sorry, I don't think we fully described biodynamics. We didn't do a great job. It's a way of thinking about the farm as a living organism as a whole and curing all the diseases from within and creating a really well balanced, healthy piece of land that doesn't be affected by these massive swings when you're wiping out all the ladybugs is the best example.
Yeah.
That's kind of the thing. If you kill all the ladybugs, you're gonna have a lot of aphids, and then you have all this other imbalance.
And if you have aphids, you got to spray with poison.
Yeah, and
So they're treating nature like an ecosystem, which
Yeah,
it is, where
exactly.
everything's dependent on everything. You don't do monoculture. You mix. If you do have a ton of grapes, you mix lots of other stuff.
and
in.
then
Right.
then there's the whole thing with paying attention to the moon cycles and the
Right.
stars, and I mean that seems a little woo woo, but really the moon has a massive effect on water and tides and everything, so it's going to have effect on when you should be planting or
The tide comes in, the time comes out. You can't explain that.
brah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
within that, when you're thinking about biodynamics and making it a little almost harder on yourself, you're also thinking about everything deeply. You're putting thought in this whole process, and when you make that work, it's going to have this singing vitality to everything, and so it
connects with the earth, the terroir.
It's just it creates an alive wine is the way I would like.
So, but you're not biodynamic yet.
No, I'm not.
Would you want to?
So I don't own my own vineyard. I buy all my fruit and everything I buy.
But if you had your own vineyard, would you
100%,
do it?
I would do it biodynamic. Yeah, I'm not dogmatic, just biodynamic. I'd use a few different things together, but it would be a big. Most of the philosophy would be biodynamic for sure.
And is that a goal of yours to have your own property?
Yeah, I think so. The way my business model works best for me as of now, could change, is so I started very small. I rent space in another winery and I buy all my grapes. So I don't own my own winery and I don't own my own vineyard, but that gets rid of so much overhead and allows me to kind of start at a 300 case to then moving up to 800 case small winery.
I'm glad you said that, because I feel like if I didn't know you, I'd be like, oh, you're some super trustafarian, whatever. You got this wine company, you must have blah, 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 a big orchard or whatever, connections.
Yeah.
And you do have some connections. Networking is always important, but you work your butt off. You do it in, the most affordable way you can. You just build brick by brick, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's a really fun way to do it. It's starting super small, just getting out there, and then you can make a decision for yourself if you want to go into having your own vineyard and winery at that point, or just getting what I want to do is probably have my own facility and winery in the next 5 years or so. And then once I get that going well, then I'd have the money to buy a nice piece of property and find one that I actually can afford at that point. And that's exactly what I'm looking for. And that just seems to be the best business model for me.
Yeah. So wine, there's so much here, but fracking is rampant all over the U.S. that affects clean water sources.
I
Wine
just
is
saw the plants out east today. It was
heartbreaking.
crazy. Yeah. It was I haven't been to Colorado. I'm from here, but I haven't been back in a year. I was out east, and I was is that a rocket launching thing? Are you guys launching rockets? And
they actually cover them for sound and all that, but also visually.
that's why I thought it was a rocket, because it had that massive concrete wall, and I was like.
So just to chase this question, does it affect your health? Well, maybe you're saying trace amounts of pesticides aren't going to affect your health or the taste too much.
People would tell you that it washes off in the rain and we sprayed before,
but where does it wash off to? How does it affect the toads? Toads and frogs are going extinct rapidly, and insects are going extinct rapidly. It's affecting hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of acres and the health of our water, which is precious.
Yeah, I'm a fly fisherman, and I see the Hood River. I'm from here in Colorado, where you have these alpine streams. You walk up there in the summer and you're just I won't kill the bugs for Buddhist reasons, but there's bugs everywhere, and you have a healthy fish population eating those bugs. The Hood River has migrant steelhead, and this is a theory of mine, and don't write this anywhere, but
we won't record it and broadcast it.
You can put it on Elephant, they never check anything, but
The fishing community
Yeah.
is big on elephant.
But like, I go hang out next to the Hood River during the summer. I swim in it, which is a story for a different time. There's like no bug life in it. There's all these orchards
Yeah.
that have the same pesticides we talked about earlier washing into the river.
Yeah.
There. And I've always figured like that's got to affect the bug life in this river and maybe
Yeah.
why there's not a healthy trout population.
Well, it's been the most read article, top 10 on New York Times for the whole month about the insect apocalypse. They're just going extinct rapidly.
Yeah.
Like where people used to drive and get insects on the windshield, they're gone. And that's like in someone's lifetime,
It's
20
cars.
years. It's everything. I mean,
Yeah.
poison is bad for stuff.
It's bad.
That's what it's meant for.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
not a radical statement. Any other comments or questions?
From Jean, do you have a red wine that you recommend?
Do you have a red wine
From
you
your
recommend
selection.
from your selection?
I mean,
from
this-
Jean, and we don't know where she's from.
From Jean Constant.
Cool.
Gene, this Sangiovese right here is quite a lovely everyday
Is Jean on Facebook? or
drinker
Instagram?
for a special
Facebook.
occasion. It's a lighter varietal. It's tons of acidity. Goes great with food. I always figure like worst comes to worst, it tastes great with pizza. And I really like it.
Vegan pizza.
It's a vegan
Yeah.
pizza wine.
Holly Conger
Okay.
would like to know if this is a friend you visited earlier this year.
Hey, yeah, Holly lives out in Oregon, actually.
Oh, yeah.
She's doing
I
the
know.
academy, I'm pretty sure. Yes, I visited Emily and Graham in Hood River and Portland. It was
Yeah,
super
it's
fun.
great.
It's my
We
first
rode-
time there.
Bikes around the city and then spent some time out in the river
It was
riding
super
more
fun.
bikes, but it was great mountain biking.
Yeah, and it was sunny the entire time,
Yeah.
which I figured it always is. It must be always sunny out there.
I'm telling you.
Ish. So, yeah, I want to move.
What's that?
We should reach out to you
Yeah, Holly.
for a tasting. Come
you
on
should
by.
Come hang out at the winery. It's
Do
really
some barrel
fun.
tasting.
Yeah.
And you two are going back to Portland pretty soon, so you'll be, I don't
Be
know where
there
Holly is. But.
next week. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Anytime.
Nice. Awesome. Anything we haven't covered that you want to
Well,
cover?
just to finish the packaging thing,
Please.
which I think is
Oh,
cool
yeah,
for
yeah,
elephant
I love
growers. It's like trying to make it all as eco. I've known Wayland my whole life. It's not the reason I think eco is cool, but I do think of Wayland quite a lot when I'm thinking of packaging.
Yeah.
Just because you're like, you're a rock star at all this stuff, and
Sweet of you.
I think it's very important.
Yeah.
So we have a glass bottle. That's always a plus. Cork is a renewable source. These are waxed with local beeswax, which I think is really fun.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, if you smell the top.
That's amazing.
It smells really nice and fun.
It does.
And so one thing I'm not there yet, but so like the boxes I ship out are recycled cardboard. I asked Wayland, I have the paper tape, and it's all pulp. I'm trying to use as little amount of plastic as I possibly can. But
What do you need plastic for?
Well, plastic tapes was a big one. So
Oh, but you're doing paper tape now.
yeah, but there's things like wrapping pallets that you need that like
Oh,
cellophane,
yeah.
and that's like
Yeah, yeah.
by the end when you rip out it, you're like, Jesus Christ, that was so much plastic.
Right.
There's just a few places where it's one-use plastic, and I'm doing my best to get rid of that.
Yeah.
Finding those solutions.
Yeah, somehow they wrapped pallets in the 90s without cellophane. Like that was a recent thing. Like even when I was printing magazines, they never wrapped them in plastic
Yeah.
when I started in 2002. And by the time like 2005, they were. So usually if you ask, there'll be some old timer will be like, well, we used to do twine,
Yeah.
something. That's awesome you're doing it. So I want to go slowly through all that. So why is glass? I mean, most wine is in glass, right? Still.
It is. Yeah. Well, there's like the whole can movement. There's some other stuff, but still most.
Right. So cans, in my mind, are kind of awful. The aluminum is super recyclable and recycled, which is awesome, but they're lined with plastic and 18 different kinds of additives that are all like awful. Like we have an article on that, the Off the Record, a natural company talking about BPA. They basically said we got rid of BPA in our cans and everything else is still in there is worse than BPA. It's not tested, it's awful. If you have children particularly, canned food is awful. Cork.
Fresh veggies for your kids anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Cork is amazing. Do you know why cork is amazing? You wanna
It's a
talk about that?
renewable source, and it regenerates every 7 years. It's quickly renewable.
Yeah, so the whole plastic cork movement has been awful. It's moved so quickly, or caps. Cork is like from a tree. It's like the bark on a tree.
Yeah.
It's renewable, creates jobs that are in harmony with nature. Tons of room for animals, cork forests in Spain,
Yeah,
and they're
it's
amazing.
cool. One of the best places I've ever been in my life.
Yeah.
Which,
I haven't been.
thank God, is actually in southern Spain, it's a Iberico pig, like Iberico ham farm.
Mhm.
That's all biodynamic, and they have
Wow.
all the oak trees, and some of them are cork trees. So the
Mhm.
pigs are eating the acorns from the cork trees and like running around. And
Yeah.
it's like the best, most ethical meat
Yeah.
I've ever had. It's so
Nice.
delicious, yeah.
Nice. Vegan, ethical meat eater. Would you call yourself? No, you'll eat wherever. Yeah. Come on.
No, I'm
But
very
it's great
ethical.
taste.
Yeah.
And then what else? Yeah, you designed your own labels. Emily did.
One thing I gotta make sure I'm better at is like
please.
inks and paper, and that's kind of my next. It's
Right.
like the getting rid of the plastics and trying to find the labels that are as eco as possible.
Yeah, I mean, we're far from perfect. So we just printed these. These are organic and recyclable lists, but the ink is petroleum based, and you can do water-based inks on hoodies. We just did this elephant hoodie. So we're all learning and trying, and I think what's so inspiring about Graham is that you care. And I think, you know, the more people are okay with, I feel like you have to be a little humble to care sometimes. It's sort of embarrassing. Like a local restaurateur was like, well, we do all this good stuff. And I was like, you got to talk about that because everyone assumes you're factory farming. And he's like, well, it just seems pretentious. It's like, you don't have to be pretentious. Just make fun of yourself and say, hey, we're trying to
Yeah.
support local, ethical purveyors.
Yeah. And so one of the vineyards I worked with, the first year was sprayed once with a conventional spray. And that was in the spring. It was great grapes. And I did it the first year. I didn't feel great about it, but
Yeah.
it helped me get off the ground.
Yeah.
And I talked to the farmer, and ever since he's sprayed the vineyard with natural sprays.
Partially because of your
Only because I
conversation.
asked him, and I bought the sprays for him.
It has such a huge effect.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's like, and he's noticing that it actually works slightly better.
Yeah.
I'm like, I mean, I'm putting those words in his mouth, but he's super happy with it at least.
But let alone when you go biodynamic, then you're not paying for the pesticides.
Yeah.
You're not paying for chemical fertilizer. Everything. Like I interviewed this professor of poop he's literally like a professor. And
I'm into that.
it blew my mind, like almost more than any video. It's on Elephant if you find it somehow. And he just talked about how like in a modern factory farm, they have thousands and thousands of tons of poop, right? And back in the small farm days, they would use the poop as fertilizer and everything would rotate. But now it's so much and they aren't growing any food. So they have to pay to get that disposed of and it's toxic, it becomes poisonous. So instead of getting a free fertilizer that's really great and organic, it becomes this toxic evil thing. I'm sorry, I'm distracting from our conversation. But it's so exciting.
No, you're good.
like,
It's the wine, just relax.
Yeah.
It's not you.
Okay, good. And if it's a small farm, you know, it all just cycles around. Yeah, let's do it. And everything's free and everything's healthy for the animals, for the land, and for us who are eating or drinking it. Speaking of drinking,
Here we go.
so what do we have here? I know we've already said that.
This is third
Cheers.
the Buona Notte Sangiovese.
The finest crystal from the Elephant HQ office.
Yeah, these are Austrian crystal, I believe.
Yeah, very exclusive. You have a comment?
I have a comment from Jenny Lynn. What would happen if they stopped spraying the grapes?
What would happen if they stopped spraying the grapes?
So you have to spray them with something. Even on biodynamic farms, you make your own teas and your own sprays that are made naturally, and you do spray them. If you just stop spraying grapes, in like 99, we'll just say percent of vineyards, they will like start to get powdery mildew or botrytis, and they'll start to just almost like not rot on the vine, but they just have these flaws that
They're
don't
vulnerable.
make. They're vulnerable, and then once you get those things, your wine quality just starts to go down.
Mhm.
I mean, there's botrytis is a whole different thing. and
Would
there's
people argue
real
with
rot.
what you're saying? They would say, don't spray it with anything? Would anyone
There's,
say
so
that?
there is this like very small percentage, even the natural wine movement, that is like just don't touch them and just
Right.
to do it. But
Right.
I'm yet to fully believe that you can have like a super commercially viable
Mhm.
vineyard that you don't spray it on.
But could you have a local vineyard that isn't that commercially viable? You could.
It's just, I think you would just get such small crop, like you'd have to sort out so much that
Okay.
could actually go into your wine. And it's possible, I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying like
Cool.
realistically, you have to spray them with something, and that can be biodynamic spray. You're spraying with like horsetail. It's like, it's fine. It's good. You're spraying those like silica that's ground up crystals that helps them
Mhm.
grow, like
Right.
photosynthesize. So
But spraying with poison is the point where
yeah, you like all those poisons are to kill these fungicides and all the pests and everything. And so within a biodynamic farm, there's still a little bit of loss to like some of the pests. It's a balanced thing.
Sure.
Your pests still need to feed your ladybugs.
Right.
So it's possible, but it's not really done. You got to spray with something, but you can have these supernatural sprays that you make yourself from the farm.
It is funny, these words like pests and like weeds. Like now there's this whole thing in food, obviously, where like you can go buy dandelion greens at the farmer's market, and half the people in Boulder are still picking dandelions like as weeds or spraying with
It's a
poison.
great spray as well, dandelion spray.
Or you can go
Yeah.
buy them for like $8 a pound or whatever. I don't know
Yeah,
what it is over at the farmer's market. Like a lot of weeds or pests are actually part of the ecosystem.
Yeah,
If you restore the ecosystem, it all balances out.
exactly. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm good. I'm drinking wine. I'm relaxed. We can hang out. We're gonna hang out for 2 more hours and just not talk much. Any other comments or questions? We're here for you. Did you look on Instagram?
Any comments? We said something just off the rails.
You're great, man. You're very precise and careful with what you say.
So in these, Royce Volkosich asked why why are sulfates, or why do they have to be added to the wine, or why are they if they don't need to be?
It's a preservative, so people add them to like cut down on like any bacterial load that's in there, and then to preserve it on the shelf for a certain amount of time, or once it's open, and it's just like it preserves it in the bottle for longer, and once the bottle's open for longer, and so
But you can add very, very, very little.
yeah,
Potentially.
you can add nothing, it's fine. There's plenty of wines that don't add any these days.
Right.
The National Wine World is full of them.
But then do they go bad on the shelf waiting?
They're not gonna lie, they're definitely meant to be drank within a couple of years.
Uh-huh.
There's other ways. There's natural, like acid is a natural preservative to a certain extent. Tannins are a natural preservative. It's like there's
Right.
other things, but there is like the percentage of what I'm adding here or what other people. It's harmless,
Right.
And it is a nice little tool that you can use just to clear things up and finish your product off. We get like
Yeah. I mean, I will say that question is perceptive because like here in Boulder, there's a ton of natural food companies. The second you start thinking about shipping your product all over the US, you get into plastic packaging. Usually you get into weird preservatives. You start adding xanthan gum to your like salsa. Like there's a little bit of a twist in just fitting in with the American system of distribution and selling.
super like obvious example of all that is I only added 5 parts per million of salt to this. You have to drink it the day it's open for the most part. Now it has a little age, like this is actually open yesterday, it tastes quite fine. But
Yeah, I would drink mine
Restaurants-
over like 2 or 3 days.
I was just told
Is that okay? 2 or 3 days?
I mean, it's up to you. If you're drinking it, it
But
tastes
that's
good.
the first day.
Yeah.
You're basically saying.
And so I was just honest with restaurants in Portland. If they asked, I wasn't going to tell them. I also would tell them that it's probably not the best for by the glass pour. Like if you're going to open it one day and then have it sitting overnight and pour
Right.
for guests the next day, that there could be some quality loss. And so I'm not going to lie to them about
Oh, that's
that.
great.
And so that's not a great by the glass option, which has hurt me with sales.
Yeah.
I don't want to say a lot, but it's definitely hurt sales a little bit.
But by the bottle at restaurants, you do well.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
they're going to drink it all.
I mean, I like that. That's sort of the return we're calling for. Like, go to farmers market. I shop at farmers market all the time. I buy little quantities because I'm biking. Everything's fresher. Yes, it's a pain in the butt / we've done that for hundreds and hundreds of years, and the food is fresher. It's more local. It actually can be pretty affordable. You're helping support middle class jobs. You're not getting stuff from overseas. You know, in a lot of ways, it's kind of a return to something
Yeah.
healthier and more community based.
And we work in this vintage-based industry. So if you mess something up one vintage, you just gotta wait till the next vintage. And like, you know, when you're baking
Right.
bread every day, you
Right.
have these instances where you're honing that craft on a day-to-day basis.
Mm.
For us, it's a year-to-year basis. So if we're lucky, I'm super lucky I'll get to do this 40 times.
Right. That's
It's
wild.
like- it's
Where
there's
a
pressure
baker-
involved, but it's fun. Yeah.
Where a baker does that in a month and 10 days.
Yeah, exactly.
That's wild.
So I have 2 questions from Jenny Lynn.
Okay, Jenny, I like this.
Yeah, Jenny's on fire.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jenny.
So is it possible for wineries that use toxic chemicals to switch to what you are talking about? And if so, why are they not switching?
So I want to repeat that. So Do you want to come over here and say it? I feel like we need to make sure people can hear it.
Yes. Is it possible for wineries that use toxic chemicals to switch to what you are talking about? And if so, why are they not switching?
Of course it's possible. It's pretty easy. I don't want to get into like the minutia how easy it is because I don't know if I'm fully qualified to say like
Sure.
we're gonna have this one thing, but I'm pretty sure you can just the next year just start spraying with natural sprays. I actually know that's true.
Yeah.
And you'll be fine.
Yeah. Same with conventional farming and
Yeah.
transitional. And it actually, so I was at a conference this year about regenerative agriculture, and
Yeah.
you're killing the earth, the terroir, the more you use these chemicals and chemical fertilizers.
Yeah.
So it's actually good. It's hard, because you have to learn, you have to do things differently. But
I mean, for someone to go from like super conventional farming,
that's my dog.
yeah, to biodynamics, I think you might have like a pretty tough year in between. I don't want to say that you couldn't do it without a smooth transition.
Yeah.
But just like go from conventional sprays, spraying like these dates this time of year to
Right.
the next year, spraying those dates the same time of year with a spray that actually works slightly better.
Yeah.
But it's probably
All transitions are difficult,
Yeah.
right? But there's nothing
yeah.
inherently more expensive or impossible about it.
No,
It's going to be different and hard, and you have to learn and ask questions and get help, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Great question.
Okay, and then two people,
Louder.
Jenny and
Wow.
Ollie, really want to know where you can buy the wine in Portland, or
Oh.
if you can.
Yeah, all over the place. They're pouring at E&R Wine Shop right now.
And what?
Get down- E&R Wine Shop in Southwest right now. You can get down there and try a bunch of other
Like tonight,
Yeah, right now.
like there's a party in Portland tonight.
Pouring wine at $15, and you can try them all. And it's an awesome wine shop. There's Pairings, which is another incredible wine shop. Division Wines. I feel like we know these shops are watching. I'm not going to mention right now, but Park
Don't
Avenue
forget
Fine
wine.
Wines, like my homies there.
Wait, who are they?
Park Avenue Fine Wines. Tons of restaurants. You can go and buy a bottle, enjoy a nice meal.
And we can go in after, or you can do it
Yeah.
right now and leave the whole list, or just go to their site, right? You probably
Yeah.
list them
That shit.
tomorrow.
Yeah. It's on the Instagram. I shout out like a bunch of people on it.
You
And
can
we
always-
have just-
always email.
Yeah, you can always email me.
Most
And
updated list.
yeah, you should always go to the wine shops in Portland because they support me. They're great. They're local businesses. But if you're outside of the Portland area and you're having issues getting it, you can go to my website and order, and there's 10% discount code ELEPHANT. Or if you're having any more
Discount
issues,
code.
email me, graham@102wines.com. We'll figure it out.
Or DM
Or DM,
at one of the
or my number is 303-818.
So there's a link in the comments, right? You go there, 10% for any elephant reader. Elephant is
Yeah.
the discount code.
On the items that are going to benefit from that.
Right.
10%
So
discount.
Megan Swan
Okay.
asked, how much does the weather affect the type of grape you grow, and does climate change impact your harvest?
Yes and yes. I mean, grapes are very much selected for the climate they grow in. That's why working in the Columbia Gorge, we're almost like super blessed because we go from rainforest and like this alpine climate we go from rainforest where you're not going to grow any grapes to alpine climate where you can grow like certain subset of grapes, and then it goes into these like warmer, almost like Mediterranean climates, and it goes all the way out to like this continental warm climate within 40 miles.
And like desert.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so we,
And that's good for some
So-
reason to have that variety.
yeah, it's great. It's right. It's makes it really fun as a winemaker to be able to, well, I'm going to make this Alpine wine, and then the Sangiovese, and I can do all these fun things. So, yeah, and altitude affects temperature. So there's weather, altitude, terroir, soils, climate, politics, all that stuff. It all affects what variety you're in.
So climate change generally
Oh yeah,
will
climate change.
mean more extreme weather, more droughts, more extreme wetness,
Yeah,
less cold.
I mean,
sometimes.
just look at Napa and Sonoma 2 years ago.
Right,
when there was-
fires.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean,
That's such
so
a
you can see
bummer.
the grapes that used to not ripen, had trouble ripening in a certain area now coming to full ripeness, and wine regions where it's becoming too hot.
Yeah, Vermont will be the new wine state.
Dude, don't blow me up. That's a good idea.
Yeah,
It's like
seriously, they say.
cheap land. It's like it's there. You can. There's areas that are producing great wine there.
Really, already?
I can't remember the name of her
Wow.
winery, but there's a lady there who produces great wine.
2 years ago, I was researching where in the world to move to be safest from climate change, like down the road, and Vermont was not on the list, but Vermont will no longer have snow within a couple decades. It'll be a year-round farming state. It's insane.
That's insane.
Like, I lived in Vermont, it's cold.
That's
That's why it's so hairy.
So another question from Elise. Can you touch on the difference in vegan versus non-vegan wines?
Yeah,
Right.
I can. So I don't know if I'm a full expert on it, but there's things that they use to clarify wines. It's that are made of fish guts. It's like I can't remember the name of the word. I've
What
never
do you mean
used it.
clarify? The
It
cleaning?
cleans it. It grabs all the particles as it kind
Ah.
of sizzles down and then sizzles down into the leaves, and it's made of fish guts.
How weird.
And
Who
so
thought of that?
scientists.
Yeah.
Wasn't the fish.
I was thinking
like
some
that.
farmer who was like dropped his fish in there.
Yeah. And, I mean, at that point, it's not going to taste like fish guts, but it does make wine that is not vegan. And so there's other things.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not to burst everyone's bubble, but when you do use natural grapes, there's bugs in the grapes, and you try and get them out, but they do
Yeah.
end up in there a little bit.
Right. They died happy, hopefully.
I hope so.
Yeah.
And so there's one other one that can be second. The fish guts is a big one.
There's some like whale stuff with caskets sometimes with oak barrels or fish, something like that. It's like a lining on the barrels. I've
On
heard
the
about
outside,
that.
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, the
Whales,
experts.
save the
here.
whales.
Yeah, safe whales. Okay, cool. I think we're good. Are we good?
Are we getting, that's it for
I'm gonna have to keep drinking wine and talking if anyone has
just-
more.
One more asking how they can buy in Colorado. I think they just joined.
You have to order off the website for now, or talk to your local distributor and beg them to get me in here. Because I'm working on it.
Buona notte.
I had some meetings this week, and
Yeah.
we're working on it. We'd love to be here.
And maybe just to follow up Ginny's question about the sulfites.
This is Emily speaking.
Yes.
Yeah.
What would be an example? So you use 5 parts per million. What would be an example of like a conventional wine, like to give perspective? How much are they actually?
I mean, it's 50 to 100 to, I couldn't tell you how
It
much they add
varies,
to like
but-
some of that, like $2 chuck or whatever, not to blow up $2 chuck, one like that. But I'm guessing that has a lot in there. And I don't know what percentage. I haven't sent any into the lab recently, but
But
it's
clearly
an elevated
significant.
amount, yeah.
Yeah.
Plus
difference.
probably some sugar, acidity, and fish guts. I think that wraps up everything. We just
Why you might get a worse headache on those
Yeah.
wines versus
Right.
drinking these.
Well, thank you.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's our theory.
Yeah.
You could. And if you did, can't say we didn't warn you.
Yeah. Exactly.
Awesome, Graham. Well,
Yeah.
congrats.
Enjoy your holidays. Hope you drink some fantastic wine and
Great work.
enjoy some great meals. Yeah.
Emily and Graham, congrats. And I'm excited to see where you go with it.
Well, one last thing. Waylon,
Yeah.
thank you for always being like a bigger brother to me
Aw.
and being like a mentor. It's been great.
Aw, I love you, man. Yeah,
All right.
love this guy. Graham Markel, Buona Notte Wines. Go support him and get a discount.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for watching. I know it's been long. Yeah, I kept drinking mine quickly.
I
Is
know,
this where the
that's
exit
how it
music comes in?
goes. Yeah.
You just like,
The credits.
the credits go,
Pepsi
the
Cola.
music, and it's just you guys banter.